My brother Andrew was the best roommate I ever had. He was also the last roommate I ever had. When I was 7 years old, he passed away of cancer, and I knew my life would never be the same. I'm here to tell you how I reacted to that pain and how the experience gave me purpose. When I was 5, my brother Andrew was diagnosed with AMKL leukemia, a rare type of cancer with almost no survivors. He went through endless rounds of chemo, and we were there to support him as he fought. A week or so after being diagnosed with cancer, my parents took me and my younger sister to the testing area of the hospital, where we were going to get our blood tested. I asked, "Why do we need to get our blood tested? Our brother's the one who's sick, after all." Then they explained to me that if I got my blood tested and it matched with Andrew's, I could donate my bone marrow to him, a procedure that could potentially save his life. Upon hearing this, I was more than willing to undergo the blood test. And that's why you see me so happy here in this photo, sitting on my dad's lap, about to get my blood drawn at the hospital. Most 5-year-olds in a room with a needle would be terrified or crying, but I knew I wanted to help my brother, and so I was more than willing to undergo the blood test. A few days later, we heard back from the doctors. I was a match. I didn't hesitate to say I would donate my bone marrow to Andrew. However, my question was, how soon? Unfortunately, I found out I would actually have to wait 3 months while Andrew underwent chemotherapy in the hospital before I could donate my bone marrow to him. During this time, I would visit his hospital window, waving to him or FaceTiming him over the phone, but I hadn't been able to physically interact with him for months, and I missed seeing my roommate, my best friend, and my brother, Andrew, again. So, a month before the procedure, when the doctors told me that I would get to visit Andrew afterward in his hospital room, I became even more excited to donate my bone marrow. Now, I had 2 reasons to be excited. First, I would help Andrew fight off the cancer that he had been sick from. But also, I would just get to hang out with him after the procedure. And seeing Andrew after the procedure, in and of itself, was enough to make me excited to donate my bone marrow to him. The procedure worked. It was a success. My blood cells fought off Andrew's cancer. He left the hospital, and he came home with us. He got to go to preschool. He went to Disneyland. I felt an immense surge of power within my bones, as the literal bone marrow that had come from within my bones had fought off Andrew's cancer and made him better and brought him home with us. And for this, I was very proud. This experience reaffirmed my belief in the power any person can have on determining the outcome of challenging scenarios. While I hadn't been able to control Andrew getting cancer, I was lucky enough to help him fight it off. This is where my story takes a sad turn. A year or so after being released from the hospital, Andrew got sick again. The cancer was back. I asked, "Is there anything I can do? Can I donate my bone marrow again?" The doctor said there was nothing me or anyone else could do. We were powerless. And when Andrew was 3, he passed away. After feeling as though I had the power within my bones to literally cure cancer, I was powerless, and I didn't know what to do. People try to find reasons to justify these sorts of traumatic things happening. Some people say everything happens for a reason, arguing that there is some reward or justification for even life's most tragic occurrences. However, seeing my brother die of cancer convinced me that's not true. There's no logical reason that can justify taking the life of someone so young from the people who he loves, and there's no reward that could possibly compensate taking the life of such a young person. I've come to believe what matters isn't the reason why something happens. It's our reaction. Reacting with strength and purpose and conviction can drive our life forwards, reacting to tragedy in a way that is impactful and meaningful. But at this time, I didn't know how to react. I knew I wanted to help my brother, but I couldn't. He was gone. And I was frustrated and I was angry. But I did understand the wide wealth of opportunities I saw before me. And seeing how Andrew had not been able to maximize his own opportunities, I sought to maximize my own in order to honor his legacy. One place where I saw a lot of opportunities before me was the soccer field. Each practice, each scrimmage, and each game, regardless of how meaningless it was, I treated with the maximum intensity. Each loss led to tears. And when I didn't see teammates mirroring this level of commitment, I would become frustrated and angry. Oftentimes, when crying on the sideline after one of these games, other teammates and parents would come up to me and they would say, "Wills, why does it matter so much? It's just a game." I'm sure you've heard that before in any sport you've played. But to me, it wasn't just a game. It might be the last game, a chance to maximize an opportunity out on the field and have fun with my friends left waiting. And after seeing how brief life could be, leaving an opportunity waiting seemed sacrilegious to me. I still play every game with the same intensity today as I did when I was younger, and I still love soccer just as much. As I've matured, I've found more direct ways to honor Andrew's legacy. When I was in late elementary school, I got the opportunity to join the junior board of a cancer research organization called CCTDI, which develops drugs to find cures to rare pediatric cancers like Andrew's. On this junior board, I helped raise money for them to do their research. And one example of a fundraiser I did was this one right here, where I was on a Peloton bike doing an exercise fundraiser in 7th grade. After spending some time on the junior board, I became interested in the science of the work they were doing, and so got the lucky opportunity to help them out in the lab for a few weeks with a project. Feeling that the work they were doing was interesting and somewhat fulfilling to me, I continued on a little further. And this past summer, I actually got to work at a biotech company in San Francisco, helping them develop drugs for cancers. Even though the work in these labs was complex and tedious at times, it didn't feel that way to me. I felt as though I was making a difference in the lives of cancer patients like Andrew, and in doing so, I found fulfillment, and I began to find a purpose. So I began to pick up on a pattern. Doing things in science to help kids with cancer like Andrew was one way in which I found a purpose. So I continued on a little further, and I explored that. I partnered with Gift of Life, a bone marrow registry, which is an organization that connects people with blood cancer like Andrew with strangers who can donate their bone marrow to them in the event that they don't have an immediate family member like myself who can donate their bone marrow. As I recruited people around the Maui community, I began to tell my story again, and in doing so, inspired more people to join the registry. That same power I felt when I donated my bone marrow to Andrew began to come back. I began to feel as though I was making an impact in the lives of kids with cancer like Andrew. And even though Andrew wasn't there, I felt as though I was honoring his legacy. So why tell you my story? Why tell you my story about my winding journey to purpose if it's not something that's replicable to you? Well, I actually did some research, and I found that developing a sense of purpose can be a pretty powerful way to cope with grief and trauma of all sorts. Research from psychologist Adam Grant reveals that over 50% of people who experience some sort of traumatic event in their life react in a positive way and experience some sort of post-traumatic growth as a result. I believe this is often through the mechanism of the strengthening of purpose, as when one has a stronger purpose, they are more likely to feel fulfilled and productive within their own life. The historical inspiration behind this theory, however, was a man named Viktor Frankl, who was an inmate at the Auschwitz concentration camps during the Holocaust. He found that those who were able to withstand the constant threat of death and loss of friends and family members during the Holocaust were those who had a strong reason to live, who had a purpose. For Frankl himself, his purpose was to publish the manuscript of a book which had been confiscated prior to him being taken into the concentration camps. After being released from the concentration camp, he took into thought the lessons he learned from his time in the concentration camps, writing, "If we can find some center of meaning to put in our lives, even the worst suffering becomes bearable." I don't know what suffering you or your loved ones may be going through. I don't know if you experienced the most traumatic event in your life yesterday or lost a family member 10 years ago like myself. Regardless, I think the idea of developing a strong sense of purpose brings hope to us all. And I hope my story brings hope that we can all process the trauma associated with losing loved ones and honor their legacies every day. I know I wouldn't be the person I am today without experiencing what I did when I was little. But in doing what I'm doing, taking actions to help honor Andrew's legacy every day, I feel as though I can make an impact in the life of kids with cancer like Andrew. And I hope that in doing so, I'm able to honor Andrew's legacy. Thank you.